Okay, we're discussing the halachas about people who are encircled in the city, captured. What's the halacha of the woman regarding, according to Rashi and Taisus, regarding their own husbands? Maybe willingly they weren't violated, but willingly they acquiesced, and therefore they lost to everybody. According to other Rishonim, only to the Kahanim, and they were worried about a case of Anusa. So continuing along that theme, Amar of Zechariah ben Akatzav, Hamoyen, a lashon of moyen is a lashon of shvua. Sometimes shvua moyen means before Hakadosh Baruch Hu's moyen in this world, the Beis Hamikdash, or moyen could be one of the in the Gemara in Chakika, one of the Zion Rekias. So Rabbi Zechariah ben Akatzav, who was a kohen, made the following shvua: Loizazu yada mitach yadi, mishosh shenichnasu levi kechav Yerushalayim yad sheyetzu. Literally, her hand did not go ahead and leave mine from the time the Kahanim came in. The Goyim came in until they left. So I can unequivocally testify that she was not what? She was not mizaneh. However, what did the Mishnah say yesterday, guys? And a person's not believed, and this is a maisa that's substantiating it, despite the fact that he knew unequivocally that she was squeaky clean. Nonetheless, what? No, nonetheless, not believed. Life's not fair. He's not believed. He's a +8. He can't. Harold, the truth is irrelevant. He can't testify. That's it. Well, Gemara do what?
No, I think what Rabbi said he was with them.
Correct.
The husband and wife, they lived in the same house.
And the city was overtaken by Goyim.
So the whole city, they had a husband and wife, they lived in the same house. The Goyim, so they
were also.
I don't know when that time.
Anyway, the afal, it's just a coin to a coin. The afal peak.
Lace, he was made on his wife, not on him.
I don't have time. Tana. The afal pecan, afal. He didn't divorce her. Afal pecan, what did he do? He was miyachi the house in his Kishihi yaitza, and she would leave. Yaitza b'roish baneha, right? She would go b'roish baneha. In other words, to ensure that they would never be yichud in the chatzah together. So she would always go out first, and then the kids afterwards. So she was the kids in between him and her. Ukashi nechneses, and when she would come in, nechneses b'soif baneha. The kids would come in first, and she would come afterwards. Boy Abaya. Abaya asked the following question. Boy Abaya. Mahu lasais. What about a case of a kohen who divorces his wife? So in this case, he didn't divorce his wife, right? What about a case of he divorced his wife? Do we have to be concerned the same way because he's not permitted to be with her? Hasam hu de kilu, right? But the shvuya kilu to allow them to live in the same proximity. Aval hacha lo. Ideal malashna. Maybe there's no difference. Tosh maditanya. Hamagarish ishtoi. Someone who divorces his wife. Loiti nase b'shchuna so. She shouldn't marry someone in the shchuna because since they're familiar with each other, Rashi says she may go ahead and make ramasim to him, wink to him to go ahead and entice him. So therefore, to avoid any possible problem, we would not go ahead and live near each other. However, and if he's a kohen, right? Even if she doesn't marry, the other case she was remarried. Guys, it was a gerusha and she remarried. Here, she's usher to the kohen. Even if she doesn't remarry, but like see them mother, you can't live in the same mother. Remember from our Erevin days, the alleyway, you had bias go to a chatzah enter into a mother. Im hoyekvar cotton, right? And im hoyekvar cotton, and if it was a small city, a small village, it's going to be like a shchuna. They shouldn't go ahead and live. He shouldn't live near her. So now me, who's forced to leave? Since they can't live together, so you're telling me so who leaves because of who? Who leaves because of who? Tashma de Tanya. He is miponav. She's going to leave in lieu of him. In other words, she would leave and he would stay. The einhu nitcha miponeha, but he would not leave because of her. However, if it was her, it was her chatzar. She had a house in the chatzar. Who nitcha miponeha? Then he would have to leave. Now, Iboilu, the following shaila. Let's say they both had houses in the chatzar. Mahu. Again, all things being equal, who has to leave? Tashma, he nitchis mipanav. Now, it said that she has to leave. Above, guys, we said, the Bryce said she has to leave. Now, when we say she has to leave, what exactly is the is the discussion. When she has to leave, what exactly are we talking about? If it's his chutzner, so pshita, you have to tell me she has to leave. It's his turf, right? It's his turf. Ella, what are you going to say? So what are you going to say? You're going to tell me if it's her chutzner and she has to leave, Tanya, and who paneha. So we have a brisa saying she has to leave. So it says the Gemara, Miman of Shach. If it's his chutzner, you have to tell me she has to leave. Of course she has to leave. It's his chutzner. And if it's her chutzner, she doesn't have to leave. So the brisa that said she has to leave must be speaking where they're equal footing. And we can be placed to Shaila when they're equal footing that she has to leave. Guys, again, you see, we have a brisa saying, and if she has to leave, says the Gemara, what's it speaking about when she has to leave? It's speaking about what? It can't be his chutzner because it'd be pashit. If it's hot chutzner, it's not true. He has to leave. So when it says he has to leave, it must be speaking about what? Where it's equal footing. Elolav, it must be what? Ki gavna. It must be speaking what in this scenario that they're equal footing and she has to leave. Says, no, Dilma dog and maker. Maybe it's speaking where what? They both rented. So but if both maybe it's speaking where they're rentals. So in other words, it's mashma that if they're rentals, what he would go ahead what and rent, and she would go ahead rent. Right? It was both of them, but maybe it's a chas of both of them. You won't be able to push the shaila. So what's this? What's the bottom line? So what's the tashma? The pasuk says, "Hine Hashem v'taltelcha taltel gover." Hakadosh Baruch Hu will go ahead and make you wander, the wandering of men. V'amarav till tule the garvin koshim the isasa. The wandering of men is more difficult than women, so therefore we make her leave. In other words, to be pushed the shaila, all things being equal, for a man to go to relocate. For a man to relocate, it would be what? It would be hard. So since it would be hard, therefore what? We expect her to leave. Okay. So again, the shaila was we have the Maisa. We have the Maisa with Rabbi Zachariah ben Akatzav. Unfortunately, right? Despite the fact that the city was surrounded and he can't be made on his wife, and then we got into the shaila. So in a scenario, who could they live near each other? And halacha, people get divorced; they shouldn't live in the same area because, again, since they're accustomed to each other, it's uncomfortable. And who knows that something might happen. Right? In the scenario where it's his chutzner, she leaves, her chutzner, he leaves, and where it's equal footing, then she would leave. Okay. Tana Rabbana, the following. Tana Rabbana. Here's a case where what? More harchakis by gerushin. These are more harchakis by gerushin. In other words, we have a divorce that takes place. Things that you have to do to distance yourself. So what are they? Says the Gemara. Lava himena, the kohen he borrowed from her before he divorced her. B'nichsei aviyah. We're familiar already, guys, with nichsei miloig, right? Nichsei miloig. She brings something into the marriage. As long as she's married, he has use for it. And now they get divorced, he returns it. So he had borrowed from this woman before the gerushin, this kohen, the nichsei aviha, and then he divorced her. So eina nifras el al yedei acher. When he comes to pay, he doesn't repay himself. As a harchaka, someone else will pay. In order to distance themselves, again, once the man was with a woman, they have a certain amount of being accustomed with each other, comfortability factor with each other, will avoid at all costs them being together. Let someone else repay the loan. And if they would come in front of us for din, a kohen and his gerusha, guys, this is a kohen. This is a kohen. If it's a Pnuya and a Yisrael, that's not a problem. He could always remarry her. Now, so then I wouldn't judge that. I wouldn't arbitrate the case if they'd come together. Rav Papa Amar Shamuti Mishaptina. You know what I would do? I'd put them in Chayrim. Rav Huna Breda Vishua Amar Nikude Nami Milagdina Lahu. I even give the guy Malchus. I give them Malchus. I'm Rav Nachman Tana Rabasi. All Rabsi, guys, is one of the small mesechtas called mesechtas smachos, meaning it's all about avelis. Medavam amurim that it's also to collect the chayv herself. It's in the skarshim and a suin. At the gerushin from the suin where they had lived together as man and wife. Aval Kaniskashim and Erison, where they were not comfortable with each other, then the Froyas Atzma, then what? Since they're not accustomed to being with each other, they never work with each other, then in fact you can go ahead and take the loan by itself. So again, this is a harchokas from Gerishon. Hahu Oris Varusasai. There was a kohen that divorced his wife from Erison. The Yasla Kamei the Rava that came in front of Rava. The Yasla Rav Adabar Masna Kamei in front of Rava, and Uka Rava Shlucha Ben Tayim. Rava put a shliach between them, between the man and the woman. Samalei Rav Adabar Masna Ivon Rav Nachman Tana Be'evol Rapsi. We learned to Masech the Smachos. Right, that if it's from Erison, you're able to repay by the self. It's not necessary, guys, to have an intermediary. You can go ahead and do it yourself. So Amalei Rabbi told Rav Adabar Masna Kachazina and the Kagaisa Dadi. I saw they were very, very, very comfortable with each other. So you know what, they did not hear each other. So I think it's a good idea to distance themselves from each other. Ikedi Amri. Loi uki Rabbi Shteiach ben Tayir. Rabbi did not put someone in conjunction with the Pesach of Nachman. He did not put someone in between them. Amalei Rav Adabar Masna Nekim Mashlucha ben Tayir. I think it's a good idea for you to put someone between them. Amalei Rabbi said to Rav Adabar Masna, Ivan Rav Nachman Tana Be'el Rapsi. If it's Erison, you don't have to. So Amalei Rav Adabar told him, listen, Hani Mihli. When don't you need a shliach? Is heichad b'lei gaisa b'adadi, where they're not so comfortable. Aval Hani kichazin lu the gaisa b'adadi. I see they're very, very comfortable with each other. Therefore, it's a good idea to misrachi from each other. So very, very nice mission. The concluding Mishnah in the second parak of, I wonder if you'll ever make a siyum in the 9 days on a parak, What? What? Like Yehuda had a funny line. The woman makes a siyum to do laundry during the 9 days. That's a funny line. I would say the Shemam Yehuda, but I don't see him. Anyway, I see a black box. The Elu Neman Lahayid Bigaidlon Masharo Bikaitnan. These are ones that are believed to go ahead and testify. They're able to go ahead and testify when they get older, what they saw. Now, this is like, as we're going to see, this kind of testimony was in mostly Udirabanatika situation. You won't accept the Be'iyah of a cotton when they were a cotton stuff later on. It's all going to be the Rambanatika situations. A Pinchas, we're up to Chaf Ches Amid Aleph. Chaf Ches Amid Aleph. The Masechta we're learning is called Masechta Kesuvos. It's finished, when you finish Yevamis about a month ago.
All right, I'll see you later. I thought you were in Yevamis. All right, have a nice night.
All the best, Penny. Dun 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 dun. Dun. Anyway, the Elu Nemanim Lahayid B'Goydlon Masharoi B'Koydlon. These are the ones who believe to go ahead and testify when they got older what they saw when they were younger. Neman Adam Loimar Zek Savyada Shel Abba. Again, we began this parak with Kiyam Shtaris, guys. He recognized the father's. How many of you recognize your father's handwriting, guys? How many of you would know your father's handwriting? What? What?
Yes, we know his signature.
Benji said he copied it on the test.
Report cards and needed signatures.
Anyway, it's funny. When I said the Mishnah, I said it's funny. I remember my father's Al Shalom's handwriting. Okay. Anyway, my Rebbe's handwriting is I could never forget. It's incredibly. It's script Hebrew. I should have brought it in put it on the screen. Script Hebrew. You never such a beautiful ksav in your life. If you never met the person and you looked at the ksav, you would say that person is a highly intelligent person. You've seen some writings of Gedolim. Some of the handwritings are so incredibly. Some are messy, but many of them are incredibly. You can see the intelligence on the page. It leaps off of you at the page. So this is your belief to say this is the in Kiyam Shtaris of your father or your Rebbe. My brother. So again, Kiyam Shtaris is the Rabbanan. So you believe Kiyam Shtaris is the Rabbanan. You believe. Good. Zachar Yisi the Ploinus. I do remember we began the parak with this. I remember Ploinus Sheyatza Behinuma. Right, she went out Behinuma. We said some type of veil. The Roisha Perua, and I hear was to her shoulders. And so and so was taken out of yeshiva, litbol. They put him in the mikvah, lecha b'truma. And he divided up with us by the gairin. Okay, so this again, this is we believed. V'hamokim hazeh beis hapras. This place is a beis hapras. Beis hapras, guys, just a reminder, a kever that's been plowed over. And you're worried about an etzim kisaora. So you're worried perhaps that you touched it, etzim from a mace, that you touched it. You're not worried about oil hames, because why? Because it is it's not etzim kisaora is not the time of oil, and this is the rabbanon, the tuma. The adkan hayinu boyim b'Shabbos tchum Shabbos. You come up to this point of tchum Shabbos. Aval ein adam neman loymar derech hayil ploini b'makam hazeh is not believed to say there was a derech to so and so in this place. Maimid umisbir hayil ploini b'makam hazeh. So in these inyanim, as we're going to see, he's not believed to say that that there was they did a maimid or hesped a makam that they were made a hesped. They would bring the kever, they would stop 7 times. There were mothers. He's not believed to say that this place was rented out, nor is he believed to say that so and so had a derech in this road, and through your property. Amrav Huna brave Yeshua u'sheish God limoy. When you say that he's believed, it has to be that he's not coming alone. He's coming, but where he has a gadol with him. When he saw the Maisa, he has a gadol with him to mitzaref le'edus. Right? Says the Gemara. You need to tell me all the cases. You have 3 cases over here by Kiyam Shtaris, right? You have three Kiyam Shtaris. Diashmi inan aviv, if you tell me your father, mishum the shchicha gabei. Since he's by the father all the time, obviously he must know his handwriting. He's seen it so often, right? Aval Rabbi, that he's not there from the time when he's small, loy, maybe he's not believed on the handwriting. Diashmi inan Rabbi, mishum the islay emasad the Rabbi. Since the Rebbe has such he's in awe of his Rebbe, he's going to be familiar with his handwriting. Aval Aviv, that the or of the father is not like that. Loy, maybe he's not believed. V'yashmin and Hanitarti, a father and a Rebbe, right? Aviv the Shchiach Gabei, the Rabbi Dislay Emsa. It's not very funny. The repeated it. Aval Achiv the Lesley, but Leha, brother, which you don't have the or of, nor do you have that you're so by him like a father. A Malay, I would say not. Kamash Malon, that Kiyam Shtaris the Rabbanon, since Kiyam Shtaris the Rabbanon, and therefore for Midi the Rabbanon. He knew Rabbanon bid Rabbanon. The Rabbanon believed the cotton with another person bid the Rabbanon. Again, he's not going to be like Echad, but with another one to be believed. See, the Mishnah says, "Zachara, you see, I remember I was smaller. The ploinus sheyotza behinuma v'raisha perua." In other words, she's saying that she's a besula, and therefore she's entitled to a ksuba wad of matayim zuz. Good, that's what he's saying. These are simanim of a besula. The fact she went up behinuma with a veil. And the hair down. My timer, why is he believed? Even the roiv noshim besulais nisus, since most women, when they get married, are besulais, gili milsam almahu, and we don't need his edis. All we have to do is to publicize it that there shouldn't be any pickbook on the din. So therefore, it's more gili milsam almahu. Now, he also said he's believed when he was a child. Litbo lechel betruma says when Dilma Eved Kayin who. What's the raya? Maybe he was an Eved of a Kayin. Now, an Eved of a Kayin, since his Kinyan Kaspo, each truma, right? We saw in the Sefta Yavamis that the Eved is Kinyan Kaspo and each truma. So maybe the Eved was in yeshiva. They took the Eved out of yeshiva, put him in the mikvah. Because again, he has to be taller. The evidence can't be tremendous to So what's your raya that what he saw was a kaya? Maybe it was an evid. So now we get into the sugya: can never learn Torah or not? Right? Can ever learn Torah or not? Okay. Says the Gemara. Messiah Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. When we're not worried about that, it's a ayat to Yeshua ben Levi. The Amar Yeshua ben Levi. Asa Adam sheyilamed es avdei Torah. It's asa for a person to teach his eved Torah. It's also for a person to teach his Evet Torah, right? And therefore, if they're taking out of yeshiva, you can be sure without a shadow of a doubt that it was a kohen and not an Evet. Says the Gemara, "V'loy, v'hoisa loy v'himena," right? The loy v'himena, the Evet Rabbi, the Evet borrowed from his master. Asu Rabbi apotropis, or the master, treated the Evet like a real person. He made him an apotropis. He made him the head of his estate. It gave him power of attorney. Oishe niach tefillin b'fnei Rabbi, or he put on tefillin from his Rebbe. Oishe korish shleisha pesukim b'beis haKnesses. He reads 3 pesukim in the Beis Knesses. Harizula yoytza l'cheiris. He doesn't go free. It's not a sign just because he's doing these things that he's a free man, right? But you see over here that he could learn Torah. Says no. Hasam the Ikri Eved Midaita. There it's speaking where the Eved initiated it by himself. Ki Kamrina, and when I say that's us teaching Eved Torah, the Kanoi Be Midig Bebanim, that you teach him you treat him like what? Like a son. In other words, if the Eved goes ahead and opens his mouth, there's no issue to that. To pay tuition and stick him in your shiva, first of all, you got to be out of your mind. Second of all, right? Right. Second of all, that's the issue over here. So Mamela, if the edus was that he wasn't yeshiva and he took him out of yeshiva to be toivel, you can be sure without a shadow of a doubt that it was a real kohen and not an Eved. Guys, we're good? We're good. Says the Mishnah. Says Litvol le'echel b'truma, that he's believed. What does that mean? B'truma d'Rabbanan. It's speaking truma d'Rabbanan. Let's say peiros, yirakais, so chutz laaretz, but it's not speaking about dog and tirish v'yitzar, which would be deraisa. Again, in every, you're not going to give them, as I said, not only d'Rabbanan the ge'edus. Okay, the Mishnah said that what? That he's believed shahaya choylik imanu ala gairin, that this child was choylik with us on the gairin. That what? So he's a kohen. Says the same kasha v'dilma Eved kohen who maybe when he was taken there he was an Eved kohen, and Tanan kimandi Omar she'ein cholkim b'truma le'Eved elam kein Rabbi imay, like the Tanya. In other words, the Eved would only get if the master's with him. So if this person was alone, obviously what? He wasn't an Eved, right? The Tanya, we learned in a brisa, right? The ein cholkin truma le'Eved elam kein Rabbi imay. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Because Rabbi Yehuda is going to hold, if you see a person, a kohen, guys, we had the whole sugya, if you're ma'il liyuchsin, so maybe if you hold your ma'il liyuchsin, then you won't let the Eved go alone. Because if the Eved's alone, and you're ma'il liyuchsin, you're going to go ahead and make him into a kohen. Says the Gemara, did Rabbi Yehuda. So you don't do it because Rabbi Yosef was no, yachal yeah. Hey, shiyayimad, you can go ahead and say, im kohen ani, if I'm a kohen, tenili b'shvili atzmi, if I'm Eved kohen, tenili b'shvil Rabbi, give me my master. Now, what's the machloikis? Rabbi Yehuda was oil liyuchsin, and therefore he had to be his Rabbi master with him. Rabbi Yosef, in his place, they were not oil liyuchsin, and therefore there's nothing to be concerned about. Right now, what happens? We had this, guys. We had this exact same Gemara in Masechta Yavamis. In the place of Rabbi Yehuda, in the place of Rabbi Yehuda, the Makam Rabbi Yehuda, what they would do is, if they'd see them go ahead and receive their truma and granis, they would go ahead and be ma'ilem liyuchsin. They'd mamish jump them up to the first tier. We had the sugya, but however, so they didn't, and therefore, guys, that would explain the shita. Rabbi Yehuda, who held Yemai Liyuchsin, would say Ein Cholkin leEved beGoyrin because Yemai Liyuchsin. Rabbi Yossi, who says that you won't be Yemai Liyuchsin, so let the Eved go alone. There's nothing to worry about. Tanya, listen to the story. We had it in Yavamis. Rebbe Laza, Rabbi Yossi. Miyamai, all my days lay out of I never said Edis in Bezdin. However, Pam Achas out of I did, and you know what? The Helu Evel Kahun Alpi. And as a result of my testimony, and we'll see why in a second, they were Mila what? An Evet to a position of a Kohen. Says the Gemara, Helu Salke Daitach. You think such a tzaddik like Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yossi, that possibility he could get into a situation that they be Mila and Evet Liyuchsin? Hashta Uma Behemas Shel Tzadikim. The Chamar of Pinchas ben Yair refused to eat produce that wasn't tithe. Eina Kadosh Baruch Hu maybe Takal al Yadam. Tzadikim atzma like Kol Shekain. Tzadikim certainly won't happen. Such a bad thing would happen. Says Ella, what happened over here? That what there wasn't that mamish they were Ma'al Yuchsin, but big shula how they said they wanted to. They stopped them, but they wanted it to. Now, what happened that Rebbe Lazar, Rabbi Yossi said, Edis, listen what happened. Chazia, he saw Ba'asei de Rabbi Yossi. What happened? He saw that this person in the place of Rabbi Yossi went to the Gairin and received Truma. So what did he think? He's the son of Rabbi Yossi. In Rabbi Yossi's place, right? There's no big spitz. But he was in the place of Rabbi Yehuda. So what happened? But also the Asid Ba'asrei, and he went and he went to the place of Rabbi Yehuda and he testified over there. So in his place where it's no big deal, he said, no, he doesn't think he was doing anything wrong. He testified Rabbi Yehuda. In Rabbi Yehuda's place, they want Mailu. And therefore, only Chas v'Shalom, and almost happened, they were Mailu Wad and Evet to Kahuna. Now, one of the halachas we saw that Nemon Teheyed, that Shamakam Hazeh Beis Pras. This place had a kever in it, and it was plowed over, right? And My timer. What's the reason? Why is he believed? Base of pras the Rabbanon. Who? The base of pras is only suffix the Rabbanon. Dam Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel menapeach adam. A person can go ahead and blow, because guys, the only concern is what is the etzem kasayra. Etzem kasayra you can blow away. So therefore, it's possible to go in the field by blowing it. Menapeach adam base of pras, right? You can go ahead and be menapeach my base of pras. Rabbi Yehuda bar Ami Mishmei Rabbi Yehuda Amar base of pras shenidash. A base of pras that had been stamped upon, so the bone was crushed, that's less than a saira, that would be tahar. Therefore, it's the Rabbanan. My timer, it's not possible that he didn't go ahead and smash it the regel, and therefore there's no concern. So it's only Tumah the Rabbanan, and as we've proved in Mishnah consistently, when it comes to the Rabbanan, we're believing him in the Rabbanan situation.
Who's he testifying?
That is a base pras. That is a base of pras. That is a base of pras.
That's a negative.
What?
That's a negative. So why would you? It's not a big. The other ones are. You're being.
No, I guess you
Yeah.
maybe might say that they knew there was a kever in that place, and then be suffered to the Raisa. And he's saying no, that it's a base of pras, and it didn't have a base of pras. In other words, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anybody? The ad kind of by Shabbos. That nemen to say up at here it's Tchum Shabbos. Why? Ksava is Tchum the Rabbanon. The whole Tchum is the Rabbanon. Yehuda is saying, Yehuda Horowitz, I know my Talmidim. Who holds that Tchum is the Raisa?
Rabbi Akiva.
There you go. Thank you. You see that? You're such I'll give you a sign. I'll sign something for your refrigerator. Okay.
Who was Rabbi Akiva?
Okay. Who was Rabbi Akiva? I'm sorry. Okay. Who was Rabbi Akiva? Anyway, Dr. Press has learned his lesson. He would not go ahead and ever answer without making the form of a question. Actually, this seems more like Hollywood Squares than Jeopardy, but I'm looking at it.
Who's in the center square?
Who's in the center?
Charles Nelson Riley.
I don't think so. Anyway, I don't think so. Anyway, says the Gemara. The ain neman loymar derech hayel leploini b'makam eseh. But however, he's not believed. Two cases he wasn't believed was when it comes to mammon, guys. The two cases were that Ploni had a shvil rishus in this here, and Ploni had a place for the maimadais. Says the Gemara, the ain gadol neman loymar derech hayel leploini b'makam eseh. And or my misbid hoyel point b'makam zeh. My time of why you're not believed? Because afuki memoinah limafkinan. To go ahead and be mitzi mum and al the aidus of a cotton we won't do. Guys, we want to say that this guy's got a piece of land, be it vis-a-vis a shvil, a path, or a mamoides. For cotton, you can't take money out. All the other cases, the Rabbanon, we believe the cotton. In this case, we won't believe him. Tan Rabbanon, we finished the share with a Maisa. Tan Rabbanon. Neman atinik loimer. Atina, after he got older, is believed to say, Kach amali abba, when I was smaller, mishpachazu tahira, mishpachazu tameya. Fred Gemara tahira tameya. What are you talking about? What's it shaykh to say it's a tumatik mishpacha, a tahiradik mishpacha? Ella, it doesn't mean tumah v'tahira, it means mishpachazu kshera, it's kashal kahuna, or mishpachazu psula. Right? And he's also believed to say, Ushe'achalnu b'kitzatza, shel bas ploni ploni. When Ploni and Ploni got married, we ate b'kitzatza. We'll see what that means. Usheisim molichim chala umatanos leploni kayin, and we brought chala and matanos the zeroya l'chaim keva to the kahanim. Al yedei atzmai, the Tinuk himself is believed to say that. Avaloi, he's not believed to say al yedei acher. He's not right. We'll see why in a second. For Kulan and I'm on a roll. For Kulan and all of them, im hayoyvi kechavim in this gayer. Or Eviv and Ishtachra, Ein Ne'emanim. Then they're not believed in all these cases. The Ein Ne'eman Loimar, Derech Hayel Aponi B'Makam Hazeh, as we saw in the Mishnah, Ma'ibin Misbeh Hayel Aponi B'Makam Hazeh. Rabbi Yochanan Breika Oimer Ne'emanim. Now Rabbi Yochanan is they are believed. Rabbi Yochanan Breika Ahei, what's he saying they believed on? Ilema Aseifa on the case of what the Derech and or the Ma'ibin and Misbeh, the place for the area. Afuke Mamoinahu, that's taking money out, and when you're caught and can't take money out. Rabbi Yochanan Breika was going on the Reisha. Was right the case of the Reisha. We said V'kulam and all of them. Hoya Eviv the Avikachavim and this Gayer Eviv Nishtachra Ein Ne'emanim. On that, Rabbi Yochanan Breika says no, they would be believed Ne'emanim. But my Nifli, what's the Svaras Machlokes between the Tanakama and Rabbi Yochanan Breika? Why, like the Tanakama, you not believe to testify something you saw when you were a guy, or something you were when you were in Eved? And why Rabbi Yochanan says you are? But my Nifli, Tanakama Savak even the Avikachavim who, since he was an Avikachavim, were having Medayik. He wasn't so careful what he saw. Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika, he was Sava Kivin the Daite Ligure, since his Das is to Magayer, made the Kavi Dayak. He's going to be very careful what he said, and he'll testify after his Gavus. Now, in the Bryce, it said, you believe to say I was at the Ketzotza of Ploni and Ploni. My Ketzotza, what exactly is it? The Tanur Rabbanon, Ketzad Ketzotza. What was a Ketzotza? What name of Ketzotza? So, if a person would marry, a brother would marry, let's say, this is a family of Kahanim, and one of the brothers is marrying someone who was Pasal, boy and b'nei mishpacha, the mishpacha would come, umeviin chavias malaya peris, they would bring a barrel of fruit, they'd break it in the middle of the city, they'd say, achenu beis Yisrael, shimu achinu ploni, listen, shimu, listen up, achinu ploni nasa isha sheina ganaslav. So they make a public bizayon, so much with tough love, right? So much with snowflakes, right? They would go ahead and they would mamish in the middle, they break the city. Guess what? Our brother's marrying someone he shouldn't be. And we're worried, Shem Yisara Zaroi Bizarenu, maybe the Zera of him, the Zera Psul will get married in Zera. One thing we see constant is Perik, the Milo make be Yuchsin. Right, we saw Rabbi Yeshua, and Yeshua they didn't believe because of Milo of Yuchsin that they didn't believe him. So therefore, this was ketzatza. So people are believed to say that they were at this ketzatza. Boi l'chulechem dugma l'dairos. Come and take this simon that we're breaking this l'dairos in order that it should be remembered that his zera should not get married mixed up in our zera. V'zui ketzatza shatinak neman lahei aleha, and this is the ketzatza, this event that the tiniks believe to say, and therefore the mishpacha would be what questionable about the one who got married. Hajjon lechi shnesalmala, hajjon lechi shnesalmala. Isha senis almala.